Okay, so get this.
Mhm.
We're going to be diving into a scenario today where a convicted felon
Wow.
has just won the presidency.
Well,
What happens now?
yeah, that's
I mean,
uncharted waters, right?
it feels like we're stepping into uncharted territory.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's the question we're going to try to answer in today's deep dive.
Okay.
Our source material is this really interesting article from Politico
Right.
called Say Goodbye to Trump's Legal Cases.
Yeah, it certainly is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
The article really digs into all the implications of a 2024 Trump victory
Okay.
on all of his legal battles, both criminal and civil.
So the article lays out the foundation for us.
Okay.
Trump didn't just beat his political opponent.
Right.
He basically beat the entire system trying to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
And this is big because he's the first convicted felon to ever win a presidential election
Wow.
in the history of the United States.
Yeah.
What kind of message does that send about the rule of law
It's
and public trust in our judicial system?
That's the question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never been here before, so it's really hard to say for sure.
Right.
But let's start unpacking this
Okay.
by looking at the federal charges that Trump is facing right now.
Good point. The article talks about two major federal cases being led by special counsel Jack Smith.
Right.
One is focused on Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is all about the mishandling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
Could Trump winning actually stop these prosecutions?
It's a very real possibility.
Oh, wow.
The president has the power to fire the special counsel directly.
Okay.
And you have to think back to the Nixon era
Right.
with Watergate.
Yeah.
Nixon tried to fire the special prosecutor investigating him, and that sparked a massive constitutional crisis,
Yeah.
which they called the Saturday Night Massacre.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he was forced to resign, but there is precedent for a president interfering with investigations,
Right.
and it often doesn't end well.
Wow.
There's also the possibility that a new attorney general,
Okay.
someone appointed by Trump,
Uh-huh.
could choose to just drop the charges altogether.
And what would happen to all the evidence already gathered?
That's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
The article speculates that Smith might actually release a full report with his findings,
Okay.
even if the cases are dropped.
Wow.
Imagine the political firestorm that would create,
I can only imagine.
not to mention the damage it could do
Right.
to public perception
Yeah.
about whether these prosecutions are really independent or just tools to be used
Oh.
by whoever's in power.
So we've got the federal charges hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
What about the case in Georgia?
Right. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis
Okay.
has brought charges against Trump for allegedly trying to overturn the Georgia election results. This case was already facing pretty significant delays
I see.
because of legal challenges from Trump's team.
Right.
But if he wins the presidency,
Yeah.
it's likely to be put on hold indefinitely.
Why is that?
Well, there's this concept called presidential immunity.
Okay.
It basically means a sitting president can't be prosecuted by a state. It's a complex legal doctrine
Right.
meant to protect the president from being bogged down
Yeah.
by state-level lawsuits
I see.
while they're trying to lead the country.
Okay.
Think of it like this.
Oh.
Imagine if every state could just bring charges against the president whenever they wanted.
Right.
It would just be chaos.
Yeah.
And the president wouldn't be able to do their job.
So Willis can't really touch Trump while he's in office.
It's highly unlikely. Even if she tried to revive the case after Trump left office,
Yeah.
so much time would have passed.
Right.
It would be incredibly difficult to actually prosecute him.
Yeah.
Evidence could be lost or compromised. Witnesses might disappear. And the overall impact of the alleged crimes would be harder to prove.
Okay, so we've got federal charges in limbo,
Hmm.
a Georgia case potentially frozen.
Yeah.
But remember, Trump already has that felony conviction in New York, right?
Absolutely.
The one for falsifying business records in the Stormy Daniels hush money case?
That case is unique
Yeah.
because it's already resulted in a conviction.
Right.
But sentencing is still pending.
Okay.
If Trump wins the presidency,
Yeah.
it creates an unprecedented situation. How do you sentence a sitting president for a felony?
That's a good question.
Right.
Yeah.
It throws a wrench in the entire process.
Wow.
The article suggests Trump's lawyers would likely push
Okay.
for endless delays in the sentencing, arguing that it's inappropriate to punish a sitting president.
Okay.
They could argue that the stress of a sentence,
Right.
even if it's something like probation or fines,
Yeah.
would interfere with his presidential duties.
So, hypothetically speaking,
Hmm.
is there any legal basis for delaying the sentencing or even getting rid of it altogether?
It's uncharted territory.
Wow.
So legal scholars are divided on this.
Okay.
Some believe a presidential pardon is the only way
Mm.
to completely nullify a conviction.
Okay.
But Trump's lawyers might get creative.
Right.
They could argue that this state-level felony shouldn't apply to a president,
Okay.
claiming it infringes
Huh?
on the powers and responsibilities of the executive branch.
Hmm.
This kind of argument would probably end up being decided by the Supreme Court.
Wow.
So it could have a huge impact on the balance of power
Yeah.
between state and federal governments.
So, even though Trump has already been convicted of a felony,
Right.
being president might shield him from any actual consequences.
Yeah,
That's wild.
it is. And we haven't even talked about the civil cases yet.
Let's take a look at those next.
Okay.
You are referring to the judgments against Trump for over $450 million
Yeah.
in the fraud case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, right?
Yeah.
And the $88 million in the two cases brought by E. Jean Carroll,
Mm-hmm.
which were related to sexual abuse and defamation.
Exactly. Those are the ones.
And the question becomes,
Ah.
how can those be enforced if he's president?
Right.
Can a sitting president just ignore court orders to pay millions of dollars?
That is a great question.
Let's talk more about that after a quick break.
Sounds good.
So before the break, you were saying that Trump is on the hook for some pretty big payouts from these civil cases.
Yeah.
But it's unclear how those would actually be enforced if he's president.
Exactly. The article points out that Trump could try
Okay.
to use his presidential powers
Right.
to delay or maybe even avoid paying altogether.
Okay.
He could claim that these lawsuits are distracting him
Right.
from his presidential duties.
Hmm.
Or he could even use his influence to try and pressure the people
Right.
who brought the lawsuits in the first place.
That sounds a bit like he'd be above the law.
It raises a lot of questions
Yeah.
about the ethics of a president
Mhm.
trying to dodge legal and financial responsibility.
Okay.
Could he really just ignore court orders?
Right.
It would set a dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
We'd likely see a new round of legal battles,
Okay.
challenging the limits of presidential power in these kinds of situations.
We've talked about the federal charges,
Yep.
the Georgia case,
Right.
the hush money conviction,
Yeah.
and now these civil lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like every legal battle Trump is facing
Yeah.
is suddenly thrown into this state of uncertainty
Right.
because of his potential win.
It really the article makes you think
Yeah.
about how much power the presidency actually has,
Right.
especially when it comes to influencing
Uh-huh.
or even potentially stopping legal proceedings,
Oh.
ones directed at the president himself.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. I mean,
For sure.
this Politico article really highlights the fact that we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Criminal charges could just disappear.
Right.
Civil judgments could be ignored. Mm-hmm.
And entire legal processes could just grind to a halt.
It's pretty crazy.
Where does that leave us?
I think the biggest takeaway
Okay.
is that this scenario forces us to think critically
Okay.
about the balance of power in our government.
Right.
Can the president really operate with impunity?
Mm.
Or are there checks and balances in place
Yeah.
to prevent abuse of power?
Okay.
These are questions that will be debated for years to come.
It almost feels like we're witnessing a potential shift
Yeah.
in how we interpret the Constitution,
Huh?
where the boundaries of presidential power
Right.
are being tested and redefined
Absolutely.
right before our eyes.
It's like we're putting our democratic institutions through a stress test,
Wow.
pushing
Yeah.
them to their limits
Oh.
to see if they can withstand this kind of pressure.
And the outcome of that test
Right.
could have a lasting impact
Yeah.
on how we view the rule of law
Mm-hmm.
and the very concept of accountability in this country.
Mm-hmm.
If a president,
Especially one already convicted of a felony,
right,
can seemingly avoid consequences for their actions.
it's a tough one.
What does that say about the future of our democracy?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
This isn't just about Trump.
Right.
It's about the precedent this situation could set
Uh-huh.
for future presidents.
Wow.
It raises concerns about whether anyone
Yeah.
in a position of power can be held truly accountable.
It's a sobering thought, but it's also a call to action.
Absolutely.
We can't just sit back and watch as these fundamental principles
Right.
are potentially undermined.
Yeah.
We have to be active participants in shaping the future of our country.
Absolutely. We need to understand these complex issues
Okay.
and engage in informed discussions
Right.
about the implications for our democracy.
That's why deep dives like this are so crucial.
Exactly.
We need to break down these complicated scenarios and equip ourselves with the knowledge to engage in meaningful conversations about the future of our country.
For sure.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
From the specifics of each case
Right.
to the broader implications for our democracy. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
I'm all ears.
So if this scenario plays out, if Trump wins and seemingly manages to evade accountability for his actions, does that signal a fundamental shift?
It's a big one.
In the balance of power between the executive branch and the judicial branch?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
It's a question that goes beyond legal technicalities and gets to the heart of our system of government.
Okay.
It's about the principle of the separation of powers.
Right.
The idea that no one branch of government should hold absolute power. If the executive branch gains too much power, it could overshadow the judiciary and potentially undermine the rule of law.
And what would that mean for the future of accountability?
Right.
Not just for presidents, but for all high-ranking officials.
Yeah, that's a really important question.
It's a question that deserves careful consideration.
It is, and it's a conversation we need to keep having.
Yeah.
We need to collectively grapple with these challenging questions.
Right.
And work towards solutions that protect the integrity of our democracy. These legal battles are a microcosm of the larger political and social forces at play in our country right now. They reflect the deep divisions within our nation and the challenges we face in upholding democratic principles in such a polarized environment.
It's a stark reminder that the law is not some abstract, detached entity. It's deeply intertwined with politics, culture, and the power dynamics of the moment.
It's all connected.
We need to be aware of these dynamics and participate in shaping a future
For sure.
where the rule of law and accountability prevail.
Well said. That's why it's so crucial to stay informed.
Right.
To engage critically with the information we're presented with.
Yeah.
And to participate in shaping the future we want to see.
Okay.
This deep dive has been a prime example of that.
And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Absolutely.
We want to empower our listeners with knowledge, encourage critical thinking, and spark those thought-provoking conversations that can lead to positive change.
It's about fostering a more informed and engaged citizenry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, digging into this Politico article with you has really highlighted for me just how interconnected these legal cases are with the broader political landscape.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
We're not just talking about isolated court battles. We're talking about potential shifts in the power dynamics of the entire country.
Absolutely. And before we go, there's one more case the article touches on.
Yeah.
That I think is worth exploring.
You're talking about the ongoing civil lawsuit against Trump for his role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, right?
It's the one.
It's a complex case already.
It is.
But the article points out that Trump's potential win could give him even more leverage to stall or even completely derail the proceedings.
That's right. His return to the presidency would complicate the legal landscape surrounding this case even further. He could argue that it's a politically motivated witch hunt designed to undermine his presidency. He could use his executive powers to try and block evidence or prevent witnesses from testifying.
It seems like the power of time might be on his side.
Absolutely. The longer these cases drag on, the more difficult they become to prosecute. Memories fade, evidence gets lost. And the political will to pursue justice can wane. And with Trump back in the White House, the stakes would be even higher.
So what you're saying is, this case, which is already incredibly complex and challenging, could become even more entangled in the web of presidential power and political maneuvering.
That's the likely scenario. It would be a monumental legal battle with far-reaching implications for accountability and the rule of law. And frankly, the outcome is far from certain.
Feels like we're watching this real-life political thriller unfold.
It's wild.
With all these twists and turns that seem ripped from a movie script.
I know. It's,
Who would have thought we'd be talking about this?
Yeah.
A convicted felon potentially becoming president?
Right.
And seemingly sidestepping legal accountability?
It definitely challenges our assumptions about how the legal system works.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to someone in the most powerful position in the country.
It makes you wonder, are there any real limits to presidential power?
That's right. And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Yeah.
And so important.
It's not just about Trump and his legal battles. It's about the future of our democracy and the rule of law.
Absolutely. It's about making sure that no one, not even the president, is above the law.
Exactly.
The decisions made in these cases, the precedents that are set, will have a ripple effect for generations to come.
It's a lot to consider.
It is.
But it's important that we as citizens engage in these conversations, understand the complexities, and make our voices heard.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
The more we understand these issues, the better equipped we are to participate in shaping the future we want to see.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has been.
I want to thank you for walking us through all the twists and turns.
Well, thank you for having me.
Your insights have been invaluable.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the potential legal and political earthquake. That could be triggered by a Trump victory.
Absolutely.
We've explored a lot of complex and challenging scenarios today.
We have.
But hopefully we've given you some food for thought.
For sure.
Remember, this isn't just a spectator sport.
It's not.
We all have a role to play in shaping the future of our democracy.
Right.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep asking those tough questions.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, keep those minds curious